What is up, YouTube? It's Leah's mom, Ty. I am here for my hysteroscopy and D&C. And so, as you can see, I'm waiting for them to bring my husband here. I'm all dressed in these. Are you undressed? Yes. Hey people, I'm back. The video cut off because the nurse came in and then we were off to the races. So my story is very dramatic. It's so ridiculous. These type of things only happen to me. So I want to tell you guys about my hysteroscopy and D&C experience. As you can see, my throat is like crazy, and I believe it's because they trached me without my knowledge. And so if you want to hear more about that, just stick around. But before I do that, I just wanted to let you guys know, because a couple of people have been commenting. I just want to give like a quick wrap up on my Vitex, analysis or final words. Vitex really did help me. If you have irregular periods, it did help me with my acne. My face cleared up really well. I didn't have any side effects, but when it comes to Vitex for TTC, it did not help me in that regard. The very first month I took it, about 3 weeks after starting it, I had ovulated, got positive OPK on cycle day 26, 27, and 28, which was kind of weird. I thought it was kind of like a fluke or something like that because I had food poisoning towards the end when I was luteinizing. When I had my luteinizing surge, I got food poisoning on the 27th. So I thought maybe that's why I had 2 days of luteinizing. But from hearing from a few of you guys, I hear that has happened to you also and you were not sick. So I have had people tell me that they had a surge for more than 1 day. Now 2 days is normal for me. Usually I surge 1 day and then the next day is super darker, like darker than the control, and then the next day it's back to being normal. So I've never had a 3-day surge before. And so excuse me. And so I would say that it wasn't very helpful in that regard. Second cycle was an inovulatory cycle. I took it the exact same way, 2 pills in the morning, 1 in the evening, and I never got a surge, never even got anything close to a surge. My eating habits were a lot better because it was the beginning of the year. I'm trying to turn over a new leaf, work out and everything. So it's not like I did anything majorly different. And so I would say, like, give it a try, definitely, because it doesn't hurt. Like, it definitely doesn't have any other side effects for Mera or Clomid. Actually, Femera doesn't really have side effects, but like Clomid, and it doesn't really have those side effects. So what I would recommend it just to try, because everybody is different. And if you have irregular periods, what do you have to lose? Just give yourself a few cycles to see if it works for you, and if it doesn't, then stop it, just like I did. And I don't recommend that you stop cold turkey, because it is a medication that is supposed to affect your hormones. So I suggest that you wean yourself off. The directions say 3 pills a day for 2 months, and then after 2 months you should go down to 2 pills a day. So after 2 months I did go down to 2 pills a day, but then it was coming up on my D&C, so I had to go down even faster. I haven't noticed any side effects. I am past my today was day 1 after my hysteroscopy and D&C, and I haven't had any issues, but I haven't had a period, so I don't really know how this is going to work. I got to follow up with my doctor in 2 weeks, and then I'm pretty sure, because after hysteroscopy, you can't put anything up there vaginally for 2 weeks. Not a tampon, not a douche, not a husband. So so that's that. My final analysis is Vitex. Should you? Most definitely. If you have irregular periods, I don't suggest it for anything else because that is the reason I took it. So I can't tell you. But if you've having any adverse reactions to it, I suggest that you stop it, because somebody did tell me that they had some bleeding on it. And that's not normal, because I haven't heard anybody say that happened to them. It didn't happen to me. So if you have any issues with it, stop it. But I can't say anything bad about it. It worked okay for what it was. It's not medicated. It's all natural. So I'm pretty sure maybe if I would have gave it time, which I don't have time. You know, who does when they're TTCing? I just want whatever's going to work. So I gave it the old college try. I plan to start it back up after 6 months or 5 months of TTCing with medication. I will go back on the medication sometime whenever I get my period. I have my 150 milligrams of Clomid or my 7.5 milligrams of Femera. I go to the top because that's what helps me ovulate. Tried 50, tried 100, nothing works for me. I have PCOS, and so the higher numbers tend to help me. So I have my Clomid 150 milligrams on deck for when I have my period. Cycle day 3, I will start it. So here is my hysteroscopy story. I went to the hospital, as you can see in my clip, and everything was fine when I checked in. My doctor came and saw me. We talked a little bit, and we said we were going back. The anesthesiologist came and introduced himself. He came and talked to me for a little bit, asked me a whole bunch of questions, and then left. So they wheeled me down to the OR, and you know, the room they lay you down. It's a operating room, but the bed has stirrup kind of things for your legs, to open them and everything like that. So they moved me onto the bed, helped me move myself, and then they hooked my arms up like when you have a C-section. They put your arms out, and then they strap them down, and then they put a belt over you, and then they put your legs in the thingamajigs. And then he said to me, he said, "You're gonna go to sleep now." And he picked up my IV and he pushed medication into it. And then I started to feel a little woozy, and he said, "What are you thinking about?" And I said, "My daughter." And he was like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "That's really beautiful." And that's the last thing that I remember. Like, I was gone. And then they tapped me on my shoulder to wake me up, and I was in recovery. And they said, "Taisha," and I think that's my first time I've ever said my name on here. My first name is Taisha, short for Ty, and everyone calls me Ty. So it was like, "Taisha, you did a really great job. You know, you're in recovery. How are you feeling? On a scale of 1 to 10, what is your pain?" And I was like an 8, because my uterus was beatboxing, y'all. It was like, it was on bump, like 10,000 pain. Like, I'm exaggerating. It was an 8. And I have a high tolerance for pain, so I'm like, it's an 8. I was very groggy, and she said, "Okay, I'll get you some Toradol." And me working in the medical field, I can tell you Toradol is like putting a Band-Aid on, and it's like a gunshot. Like, that doesn't make sense. Toradol doesn't work. So I just let her give it to me, though, you know, and she came back about 30 minutes later, and she's like, "What is your pain?" I said, "It's still about a 6 or a 7. And so she said, "Oh, I'll give you Dilaudid then." And then I was thinking in my head, again, being in the pain field, you go from one extreme to another, because, like, Toradol is like an aspirin, whereas Dilaudid is like a Vicodin or a Tylenol 3 or even morphine or something. It's a very, very powerful. And I'm not good with opioids. Like, I'm not a fan, because they just make me sleep. They make me like narcoleptic sleep. Like, 1 minute I'll be awake, and then the next minute I'm like, and then I'll be awake, and then I'll be like, so it's like I can't stay awake. Like, I'll try to wake up, and then I'll just fall right back to sleep for however long it takes that medication to cycle out of my system. But I was in so much pain, I was just like, you know, whatever, go ahead and give it to me. And then sure enough, like I could barely keep my eyes open, and I knew something was wrong because when I woke up, I was in so much pain in my uterus, like, but I noticed that my throat was like super tight, and like it was like a little, you know how if you hit your, I don't know if you can see, it's kind of big right there, but when somebody hits you or you hit yourself, like I've dropped my phone, been on my phone, and then it like dropped and hit me in the face or something like that, and then I done, like, my lip was a little tiny swollen, and that's what it felt like. And I'm like, why is the inside of my mouth swollen a little bit, and why is my throat hurting? You know, they put me to sleep, and the first thing I thought was like, did they put a tube down my throat? And, you know, I'm asking, I said, why is my throat hurting? She was like, are you feeling any pain? Do you want, how are you, what's your scale? Like, she didn't even answer the question, glossed over it. And in my groggy brain, like I said, I'm so tired, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm like, what is my pain? My pain is starting to diminish a little bit. It's like maybe a 5 going down to a 4. And like I said, I'm not really big on pain medication, so I'm like, I'm fine. This Dilaudid maybe hasn't kicked in yet, but at the same time, I'm still worried about my throat. But at the same time, I'm still sleepy. So I fall back to sleep, and then they wake me up, and she was like, okay, I'm gonna go get your husband. We're gonna sit you up. And so she set me up. I put me into a chair, and I sat there, and I fell back to sleep in the chair. But I kept waking up because, again, my throat was kind of tight, which was making it kind of hard for me to breathe. So I wasn't falling all the way to sleep. I would be like that period in between sleep and not sleep. So like I could hear things going on around me, but I couldn't open up my eyes because I was just like that tired. So she brought my husband in, and then he gave me a kiss and sat down. And I'm just like, I really want to open my eyes, but I'm just so tired. So she came in, she was like, everything's good. They're calling you some ibuprofen and Tylenol 3s into your pharmacy, and you'll be able to go. Once you feel like it, you can go ahead and get dressed. So from the time my surgery eclipsed from when they let me go, like they were done with like the surgery like 11:45. I woke up for the first time around 12:30, and she said I could go like at 1:30, and I'm like, okay, I can barely keep my eyes open, but I got up and got dressed anyway. And it was at the hospital that I used to work with, so a lot of the people in the OR I knew and kept walking past and was saying hi, and so that kind of distracted me too. So when I would wake up, one of the guys that used to work there, he said hi, we talked for a second, and all I'm thinking in my head is I wish he would stop talking to me because I'm like super tired. I don't even remember what the conversation was about at this point, but and then another girl that I used to know, she walked by, and she, we talked for a second, but ultimately I got my clothes on and then I left. So on the way home, I kept falling asleep, and then my husband had to make a couple of stops. He would go, and then I'll be asleep in the car, and then he'll come back, and then he went and picked up my daughter from daycare, and I was asleep in the car, and then she got in the car, and then we got home, and I immediately, we went and stopped and got something to eat, because you're NPO, nothing by mouth, and since midnight the night before, it's 2:30 in the afternoon the next day, so I'm like, I'm hungry. Sorry, it's my dog. No, Dupree, stop. So I'm hungry, so we stopped and get something to eat. But when I got home, I ate like maybe 2 French fries, and I was like, put this in the microwave for me, I'm going to lay down. So I slept on and off for about 3 or 4, maybe 5 hours. It was really long time. I would wake up, get up for a second, and then try to get myself up, but at the same time I was still so sleepy. That's why, again, I don't take pain medication like that, because it holds me down into that thing, like it's out of my system, like it's just bad. And so I woke up, my husband put my daughter to bed like around 8, and he got in bed, and he was asking me a question, and I really couldn't talk, and he was like, you couldn't talk earlier. He was like, you still can't talk? And like I could barely get words out. Like if I tried really hard, you could almost hear what I was saying. He was like, I don't think that's normal. This didn't happen the last time you had this. And I was like, and I was thinking in my head, like, it's still really groggy, but I'm like, yeah, this didn't happen the last time I had my hysteroscopy, which was 5 years ago. I was 5 years younger. And so I'm thinking in my head, maybe I'm not handling as well. You know, that was my initial reaction. Like, maybe I'm not handling this as well. But she, and I'll go back a little bit, she found nothing. And I wanted to ask her, she never came to talk to me because I was asleep for so long, so that she talked to my husband. And she said she found nothing. Like, there was absolutely nothing. My uterus looked it perfect, she said. And I wondered, because I am cycle day like 40 something now, and I wonder, is my endometrium so thick that you can't see anything? But they said they scraped off a good amount of it, so I'm just hoping that that helped. Whatever, just the scraping was enough to at least help me for a little bit with the abnormal bleeding. So, you know, he's like looking over my discharge papers and stuff like that. He's like, I don't see any numbers on here. I don't know who to call. And I said, well, my doctor has a after hours number. So we called the after hours number. And sorry, my throat's hurting. We called the after hours number, and they called my doctor, who was the one that was on call. And she said, go to the emergency room. Now, I didn't go back to the same hospital because clearly something happened and no one told me about it. And I'm thinking, by me being in the medical field, I'm almost certain they tricked me. Like, they put a tube down my throat. For what reason, I have no idea. Because if they put me to sleep with a local, with anesthesia, there should have been, I was down. There should have been no reason, unless I stopped breathing or something, in which case they could have ambu bagged me. That's that big bag where they do this, because it's not a long procedure. Why would you stick a tube down somebody's throat for a procedure that's less than 30 to 40 minutes long? So I really didn't understand. So I go to Beaumont, whereas I went to the DMC for my procedure, because that's where my OBGYN is. And I don't really like the DMC, sign that grace, but my doctor is there, and she's an awesome doctor, so I keep coming back. But all my other stuff is, I either go to Beaumont or St. John. So I went, and they're like, yeah, your throat is really swollen. Did they trach you? Same question I had. And I'm like, they never said anything about putting a trach down my throat. They never said anything when I woke up to say you had any kind of issues where we needed to put a new airway in there for you or anything. And so they're like, okay, well, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. While we're doing this, call your doctor. And because that's not a hospital, they're two different hospitals. They're not sister hospitals or anything. So we're not able to access any of their information to see, so it'll be easier if you just call and ask. So we call and ask, whereas they got my doctor right away to ask when I said I was having some adverse reactions. But when I called back to ask them, did they do a trach on me, no one got back to me. Even till right now, no one called me back. I don't know if they even paged my doctor, because that's not normal for her, and I got an appointment to see her in 2 weeks, and I will be asking, because I am very not happy with that. And so they were like, yeah, your throat is very swollen. Let's do an x-ray of your chest and your throat. Came back fine. What else did they do? They took blood work from me, and then they gave me, after all that, hours and hours, I got to Beaumont at 9:30. I wasn't seen till like 10:30. I didn't leave until 2:30. So after hours and hours, they gave me about 11:30ish, they gave me a steroid. They said this should help, you know, with the obstruction. It should help your lungs heal, because they said what happens if they did trick you, which is the only thing that they could think, because they said if you have an allergic reaction, we would need to know. But I don't have any allergies to anything that I know of. I didn't do anything different that last time, from the time 5 years ago, where this did not happen. The only thing is they gave me Dilaudid this time, and I told them that, and I was like, I had Dilaudid. I've never had Dilaudid before, except when I had my daughter, and that didn't happen, but it was a really long time ago. So so they was like, I don't think it's an allergy, but we're just gonna give you this steroid, because, and now they have me on appeal. I had to take 2 pills a day for the next 4 days. And it's a steroid. Hold on, I'll go get it. Okay, so it's prednisone, 20 milligrams. Let's see. Can you see that? And so I haven't taken my first one because it says you got to eat with it, and I haven't eaten since this morning. So I'm just, so I got home yesterday, like I was there for a million years, and then they were like, okay, we just want to try one more thing. We want to get ENT down here. It's 2:30 in the morning. My daughter is with me, and because we had to wake her up and bring us with her, because my mother-in-law lives all the way across town, and so it just made sense when we were trying to get to the emergency as fast as possible to take her with us. And she's awake. Like, she was up the whole time, and I was ready to get her home, and my throat started to feel better, like 100% better, after they gave me the first dose of steroids. And this was pushed through my IV, and it felt like I had fire ants all up and through me. Like immediately, like after she pushed it through, about 5 seconds later, I just started itching all over, and I was like, oh my god, oh my god. And I'm like, not again. I'm thinking I'm having an allergic reaction to the steroids. I've never had steroids before. I've never had to take them for any reason. So I'm like, oh my god, oh my gosh. And so about 30 seconds after that, it stopped itching, and I was like, she was like, are you sure you don't feel any more itching? And I'm like, no, it's gone. It's gone. And then like maybe 45 minutes after that, I felt my throat start to loosen up. Like before, whereas I could feel the tightness and everything, and it was hard to swallow. Even my saliva, it was just hard to get down. And now I could feel it kind of opening up. And so I said, I waited about 20 more minutes, and I felt it felt a little bit better even still. It wasn't 100%, but I would say going from being like to being like, I could feel myself breathing again a lot better. So I said, call the doctor, I'm good. He was like, he looked at my throat, he said, it's still really swollen. He said, but I feel better that looking at your x-rays and everything like that, that there's no obstruction. Everything looks fine to me on visually. He said, just looking at your throat, I can just see that it's swollen. He said that should be taken care of by the steroids. He said, because it's a lot of soft tissue in there, and if they did put something down your throat, could have hit your vocal cords, or because I could barely talk when I got there. By the time I left, I can squeak out words, like you could hear it a lot better. But this is a new level, because yesterday it was, even when it started to work, I was still very hoarse, like I had like a really bad cold and sore throat. And he was like, I feel better, that your throat sounds better from the time that you got here till now. He was like, if you want it, we can keep you overnight and have the ENT doctor come put the scope down just to look in your throat, just to make sure. And then he was like, but I feel confident that it was probably a trait that they put down there. And he said, if it was, then you should be fine within the next day or so with your throat, and with the steroids, it should help tremendously. So I feel confident that you can go home if you wanted to. You could stay, but it'll just be a precaution. And I said, no, I'm good. I'm good, love. I'm gonna go. And I got my daughter and we came home. Even by the time I got home, which I think we walked through the door about 2:30 in the morning, it was, I could breathe like almost normally, like where it was like taking me a lot to take deep breaths before. Now I say all that to say, I had not had any more pain down in my uterus after the Dilaudid. Like now I'm starting to feel a little bit more pain, and it's not even like pain. If I had to number it on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say it was a 3. And that's barely, to me, that barely registers, because like I said, I can take pain pretty well. And it's just like a very dull ache, like you might be coming on your period soon. It's like the hint that something is about to happen. So that's what I feel post hysteroscopy hysteroscopy D&C. The D&C went perfectly well. I didn't even have a problem with the actual D&C, which I didn't have a problem with my doctor because, like I said, I trust her. I know she knows what she's doing, but with the anesthesiologist that put me to sleep, he had a student, so I don't know if, like, as soon as she was done, she left, and she left him with me, and maybe they were practicing doing trachs or something, because I just don't understand why you would trach somebody, why you would put a tube down someone's throat for a 30-minute procedure, even if I had some kind of issue with breathing, which I've never had any kind of issue with breathing, so I don't know why they would. But just devil's advocate, like, if I had some reason, like, you already had oxygen on me, like, they put oxygen on me before they even put me to sleep, so if I wasn't breathing, I was still getting breaths. Like, that breathes for you. Oxygen does. And so I don't really know, but I will be finding out. I might give you guys an update on my next update once I talk to my doctor. But that is pretty much it. That is my hysteroscopy and D&C story. Things like this only happen to me. Thanks for watching, you guys. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment down below. Please give this a thumbs up. Please. I love you guys for watching. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you are not a subscriber. If you are, thank you so much for subscribing. You are appreciated. Later, guys.